Welcome to Time Tunnel TV. My name's Tom Warburton. That was the musical stylings of the fabulous Dave Urquhart. Everyone, round of applause.
Excellent, young man. Excellent.
Today in the show, we'll be looking at the life of the prolific clarinetist who's famed as the King of Swing in the 1930s. Later on, we'll be having him here live on stage for an exclusive interview. But first, a short documentary about the man himself, Arty Shaw.
Excellent.
Arty Shaw, a brilliant jazz clarinetist, was one of the most enigmatic, daring, and adventurous band leaders of the swing era. An intellectual, he hated public life and the music industry. Over the course of his short career, he formed 10 orchestras and disbanded most of them after only a few months. At the peak of his career, in the years just before World War II, Shaw was matched only by a few other musicians in popularity and technical skill.
Now a little tune with a vocal chorus by Tony Pastor, Jeepers Creepers.
Born Arthur Olszewski in New York City and raised in Connecticut, Shaw took up the saxophone at an early age and began playing professionally when he was only 14. He left home at 15 for a job in Kentucky, but the position never materialized. In 1929, Shaw joined and toured with Irving Aronson's Commanders. When the Commanders arrived for a gig in New York, Shaw decided to remain. There, he freelanced with many of the top artists of the day, including Vincent Lopez, Red Nichols, and Teddy Wilson. In 1934, Shaw became disillusioned with the music industry and quit for the first of what would be many times. He bought a farm in Pennsylvania and tried his hand at being a writer. He soon returned to New York and took up studio work again. At the time, he was one of the most successful studio musicians in the city, when in 1935 he was asked to lead a small group during intermissions at a swing concert held at the Imperial Theater. He put together an unusual outfit consisting of a string quartet, a rhythm section minus piano, and his clarinet. Shaw's unique combination was widely received by the public. He was offered financial backing to form his own orchestra, and in 1936 he debuted his first dance band, which featured a Dixieland approach and a string quartet. The new group made some impressive recordings but couldn't compete with the brassier swing orchestras of the day. So Shaw disbanded it the following year and formed a more conventional big band. His new outfit was a huge success, featuring such musicians as Georgie Aldi, Buddy Rich, Tony Pastor, and Jerry Gray. Vocalists included Billie Holiday, Kitty Callan, Peglet Centra, and Helen Forrest. Shaw could scarcely have known that within a short time he would make a hit record of a song called Begin the Begin. The breakthrough hit record catapulted him into the ranks of the top band leaders, and he was immediately dubbed the new King of Swing. Shaw's recording of the song continues to sell and has become one of the best-selling records in history. In April, Shaw joined the Navy. After going through boot camp and serving for 2 months on a minesweeper, he was put in charge of a service band. He shaped up the group and took it on a tour of Pacific combat zones, often playing in dangerous and primitive situations. The strain of such an endeavor soon got to him, however, and he was medically discharged in November 1943. In April, Shaw joined the Navy. After going through boot camp and serving for 2 months on a minesweeper, he was put in charge of a service band. He shaped up the group and took it on a tour of Pacific combat zones, often playing in dangerous and primitive conditions. The strain of such an endeavor soon got to him, however, and he was medically discharged in November 1943. In 1949, Shaw formed a bop orchestra. He again quit the music industry in 1951 and retired to a farm where he wrote his autobiography. In 1954, he returned briefly to music with a new Grimmsy 5, but by the end of the year, Arty Shaw had packed up his clarinet for the last time. He spent the rest of his life doing various concerts, writing and working briefly as a film distributor and a gun expert. He moved to Spain in 1955, to Connecticut in 1960, and to Southern California in 1973. In the 1980s, he formed a new orchestra for special performances, though he did not play in it himself. The 1985 film documentary Time Is All You've Got traces his career in some detail. Shaw suffered from ill health, and in the last few years of his life, he passed away on December the 30th, 2004.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's time to introduce one of the greatest clarinetists the world has ever seen, live and in the flesh. It's Arty, sure.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So how you doing, Arty?
Well, the light's a little bright for me here. You know, I don't like cameras very much, and that's why I should take these off, I suppose, really. But it's not really what I enjoy too much.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. So you came from New York?
Yes, my parents came from Brooklyn, and we struggled, you know, like most guys did and families did, and so, you know, you had to grow up on the streets, and music was everywhere, and so it was really something that was inside me and many of my friends. But I was fortunate in that my parents were able to get me out of hock an old clarinet, and of course I drove everyone crazy with playing it in the early days, but I seemed to take to it, and people said, you're good, kid. And I grew from there, yeah.
Well, it says here you made your big break in 1936, a swing concert.
Yeah, 1936 was an interesting time because, yeah, people in America seemed oblivious of what was happening over in Europe, and with Hitler, you know, the war hadn't started, but a lot of bad stuff was there, and we would just seem to be interested in escapism, I think, more than anything, and so I suppose the swing music, the swing era, it was in full swing. And I was lucky. I played a song that some of my friends had asked me to create a tempo for with my band leaders, and it was Begin the Begin. And the rest is certainly has been history, and for me, in both good ways, and it's in some ways very bad too.
Well, shortly after that you quit, which for the first time. How come that was?
Well, I suppose it's that great conundrum of that many people I see even today, because, you know, I do see artists from where I am now. We can see what's happening down in your world. People like Michael Jackson and certainly Elvis Presley. These people, they couldn't handle the fame, but they all wanted it. And I'm just the same. I always wanted the fame because I was a poor kid to begin with. I wanted the fame, but when it came, with that song, Begin the Begin, my life turned upside down, and I didn't particularly like everything that came with the fame.
So, well, after that, you went into the, you sympathised with the Communist Party.
Oh, yes, yes, I thought you might bring that up. Most people do when they interview me. The Communist Party, well, you know, you've got to remember 1936, capitalist America, we'd been through the Depression. There was a lot of communist feeling, and we wanted to see equality. We wanted to see people have food on the table and not just rich folks, you know. Of course, the weird thing, the strange thing is once I became famous, I had a lot of money. So it was a real clash, you know, and so I did feel communist elements that we should share, and we should share government and power equally, but that was never going to work in America.
No.
And so people labeled me a communist, and I had a pretty bad time in the 50s under J. Edgar Hoover. And that guy was a witch hunter. He was not really a good guy, you know. He caused a lot of people to commit suicide. He did put on the blacklist. A lot of my friends, they actually did kill themselves because they couldn't, their art, the thing that mattered most to them, they had no way of expressing it, you know, even though they were popular and people loved them, no, they weren't allowed to work anywhere.
I'm just going to leave it there for a minute, Arty.
Oh, that's fine.
We're going to come back to you shortly.
No problem.
So we will continue later in the show.
Fine.
But now it's time for, well, Studio Ed. We're going to go over to see Salvatore for the news.
Welcome to Ed News. Welcome to Ed News. My name is Matthew Jennings, and these are the news headlines. The year is 1937. Emile Earhart goes missing. Emile Earhart and the navigator Frederick Noonan go missing during their attempt to fly around the world between New Guinea and Highland Island, an island in the Central Pacific Ocean. No trace of the aircraft, including Earhart or Noonan, has been found. An island patient, Wallace H. Carruthers, a research chemist for Dew Point, received a patient for nylon. The Great Soviet Union Purge, Joseph Stalin, institutes sweeping purges across the Soviet Union involving Communist Party members who he considered anti-revolutionaries and enemies of the people. The purge also included intelligentsia, those banded as too rich to be a peasant, and many of the professional class. Also in current news, Arty Shaw has just released Begin the Begin. Our on-the-field reporter, Mumansoka Kawimbe, is live at the event.
After numerous requests by the public for him to play Begin, Shaw has finally released Indian Love Call, which features his rendition of the classic tune on the B-side of the record. The bigwigs might not like it, but the people certainly do. Record buyers are flipping over to play the B-side of the record, and Begin has quickly overshadowed every hit of the year. It has sold millions of copies and now features in jukeboxes all around the world. Shaw recently stated in an interview, "The recording of that one little tune was a real turning point in my life." The recording of Begin the Begin has made him a popular rival to superstar clarinetist Benny Goodman, and in response to Goodman's nickname, the King of Swing, Shaw's fans have dubbed him the King of the Clarinet. Shaw, however, feels the titles have been reversed. He later stated in an interview, "Benny Goodman played the clarinet, I played music." Downbeat magazine readers agree with Shaw's evaluation and have nicknamed him the King of Swing. This is Dick Johnson, signing out.
Thanks a lot, Moonman. Also in current news, Hitler says no war. Adolf Hitler meets a number of American businessmen in Berlin and tells them there will be no war and that Germany cannot afford a war and does not want war. Most believe is sincere style. Airship Hindenburg disaster. The German airship Hindenburg, the largest dirigible ever built, burst into flames and collapsed to the ground while attempting to moor at Lakehurst, New Jersey. As the airship burst into flames, it crashed 200 feet to the ground and the whole of the ship ignited within seconds of the hydrogen core. Memorial Day Massacre Day. The Memorial Day Massacre takes place when the 10 Union demonstrators are killed and 84 are wounded when police are opening fire in front of South Chicago Republic Steel Plant. It seems that's all we have time for. Back to the studio.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. And that was the news of 1937, read by our very own Time Tunnel TV specialist. It was Matt. Without further ado, here's the second part of our interview with the king of swing himself, Arty Shaw. So welcome back to the show, Arty.
Thank you. It's very good of you to say that. Thank you. King of Swing. That's nice.
So tell me, what kind of relationship did you have with one of your biggest rivals, Benny Goodman?
Oh, Benny. That's a tough one. We got on pretty well, but when it comes to music and our artistic differences, that was something else. He played music for people. This is well recorded and well documented. He played music. He gave the people what they wanted. I gave them one song that they all loved more than any of Benny's, but I wanted to make music that was more interesting. Benny made music that you could dance your feet to, which is fine, fine. But I personally wanted to advance the music, but I was trapped. I was trapped by fame. I was trapped by that one damn song. It kind of was the thing that was like a chain around my neck, and it dragged me down and made me not enjoy fame because I had to play that damn song everywhere I went. And yeah, okay, it's a nice song, but my God, how many times you have to play the thing? And people needed to see me for being more than just one song.
Yeah.
Can you name another song off the top of your head that I did?
Well, it was Jeepers Creepers.
Well, that's true, and that's nice of you to say so, but that was just a petty little song, really. I mean, let's face it, Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Come on, it's hardly going to be Mozart, is it? You're not going to be remembered for that in the years. But I liked Begin the Begin. It was nice, but if you had to play it like 400 times in a year, you'd probably get a little tired of it. So I wanted to do something that was more interesting, that was hopefully going to last, and I hope some of my recordings have lasted, and people, remember me.
Tell me about your time in the Navy.
The time in the Navy, that was pretty scary, to be honest with you, because, it's quite dangerous to be out there, and that ain't just from the enemy, that's from your own guys. You want to try it sometime. In fact, really, I think everybody should have at least 2 years national service like they used to, I believe that ended after Vietnam, which is a dreadful war, and it was a great shame. But I enjoyed my time in the Navy because it teaches you discipline, Teaches about other guys, that's for sure. You got to watch them.
Well, we heard that you're quite the ladies' man. It says here that you married 8 wives.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You had Lana Turner and Ava Gardner.
Well, I have to admit, you know, when you get to a certain level of fame, you start meeting all kinds of women who would never look at you on any other occasion. But your name, the idea, the romance of begin, you know, all of that seemed to work pretty well for me. And yeah, I met some really beautiful women. And if you'd met really beautiful women like that who were interested in you, I think you'd probably find it hard to say, no, lady. Especially when you've had a couple of cocktails, you know.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, I had some nice times. I got some fond memories. But I also carry a lot of sadness in my heart. You know, all of that was nice, but the truth was I never really felt that I was appreciated for the kind of music I really wanted to do. Yeah.
It says, according to your divorce papers with Kathleen Windsor, who was your 6th wife,
Oh, yeah?
she knew about your involvement in the Communist Party?
Yeah, well, yes, I think people know that now. I was involved in the Communist Party. She knew about it, and it was unfortunate that she decided to stand as a witness in the McCarthy witch hunts against me. And you know, you think you know people, but in reality, this is probably a good thing to remember. You know, you've got to just. I wish people would just go away and leave me alone. And if I'm being honest, I liked a solitary life, a little bit like Garbo in that sense, you know. Yeah. I wish I could just be left alone. Yeah? So I think, just to sum up, I paid the price of being famous. It's something to watch out for.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Arty, for appearing on our show.
You're welcome.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you here, speaking to such a fine musician as yourself.
Thank you.
But we'd like to put you back in the time tunnel. And if you'd like to take your place on stage, Arty.
It's been a pleasure, young man. Yeah.
Thank you. So now, we've got Arty Shaw here for you. He's going to be performing Begin the Begin. So a final round of applause for Arty Shaw. We'll see you on the other side of the time tunnel.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me out there at the back seats. It's been a little while since I've played any ballrooms, but I'm going to give this a shot. It's been a while. I don't sing much where I am these days. But okay, so if you want to begin the music, let's begin the begin. There we go. They got it now, buddy. When they begin, it brings back a sound of music so tender. It brings back a night of tropical splendor. It brings back a memory of green. Bring you once more under the stars and down by the shore. When that tune clutches my heart, and there we are, swearing to love forever, promising never to part. Yeah, it's good to be back. It's nice to be singing again. They don't let me do this much up in heaven. In fact, it's pretty boring. And I wouldn't mind staying here for a little longer. And maybe I could make a comeback. Maybe fame's not so bad after all. So don't let them begin. Let the love that once was fire, tropical embers. Let
antenna butt to you until you whisper to me. Once more, my darling, begin to begin. Once more, my darling, begin to begin. Once more, my darling, begin to begin. Again, thank you and good night. It's been great to be here. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful experience. Take care, y'all.